Thank you so much, Jalissa, and thank you so much for everyone for allowing me to be here today to share a little bit about one of my passions, which is women's health, especially as it pertains to mental health. So let me get my screen up and going. Give me 1 second. And then please let me know if you guys can see this.
Yes, we can.
You guys can? Okay, perfect. Awesome. So today's topic is going to be women's health. It's going to be by me. And I'm going to share a little bit. Obviously, there's a lot of things related to mental health, but I'm going to share a little bit about what I have experienced so far, both professionally and personally, and as well things that I've learned brushing shoulders with people that I've had the privilege of getting to know over time. And then we'll kind of talk about what mental health looks like in this day and age, especially for African American and Caribbean women, and what we can do to promote overall wellness. So let me dive into a little bit about me. So you know where I'm coming from professionally. So I'm a family medicine board certified physician. So I graduated from my program last June. But I'm also currently in a fellowship training called the Maternal Health +1 program. So it's a training for a year where I get to focus on just women. And we focus on different things such as obesity, lifestyle medicine, preventive medicine. And we work with women at various stages of transitions, whether it's prenatal, postnatal, postpartum, perimenopause, premenopause, postmenopause, any of the transitions, we're there. And we help support women to go through those transitions as safely and gracefully as possible. I'm also hopefully going to complete a master's in June of this year as well in public health, which was really helpful for me to understand not only just individually how to take care of people, but also to understand the other systems involved that make it hard for a lot of people to be able to live healthy lives. So that has been an amazing experience. And my area of focus, as I kind of mentioned earlier, is all the women, regardless of what stage of life you're in. And because women often bring children in their families, we also show love to them as well. So I like to summarize my entire passion by the following phrase, and that's supporting women and their families through their own journey of achieving holistic health, both now and for generations to come. So I want to partner with women and empower them to live an abundant life, especially when it comes to their health. So that's a little bit about me. And we'll dive in into our topic of women's health today. So a few key definitions that are kind of important to know before we continue is the difference between being mentally well and mentally unwell. I felt that it was important to kind of highlight these definitions because there is a lot of stigma still, even today, when it comes to using phrases like I'm mentally well versus mentally unwell. For someone who's mentally well, this does not mean perfection. This does not mean that no matter what comes your way, you're totally fine. Everything is great. You feel good. Nothing can phase you. Nothing can shut you down. But what it actually means is that imperfectly, you are learning to manage all the different challenges and stresses that hit you on every corner in a way that you're still able to function day to day. You're still able to make decisions. You're still able to think clearly. You're still able to enjoy certain aspects about life. You're still able to see the good and the bad in everything and kind of live life more with a whole perspective as opposed to a fragmented or broken perspective. Being mentally unwell is another spectrum. So a lot of people think mentally unwell means you're institutionalized, you're crazy, you're unstable, you need help, and things like that. While that may apply to certain people who may just need extra support in an actual institution with providers and healthcare workers, but this is a spectrum. This mentally unwell could just be you're so dysregulated that it's hard to sleep, or it's hard to eat, or it's hard to think clearly, or somewhere kind of in the middle. And it means that whatever stress you're feeling is causing you distress, and that impairs your ability to function day to day. And that could be as simple as being overly tired or needing to actually be in a facility where you can have structural support as you recover and become healthier. So those are a few of the key definitions. And with that in mind, we'll go ahead and dive into scripture first. So one of the things that for me in my own personal journey in mental health, and as I've been caring for people, that I've wondered is, does God care about the mental health of women? Does God care about where we're coming from, how we feel, what we go through? does he see us where we are now? And does that matter to him? So there are a couple verses that I came up with that I would like to share with you. And hopefully, if someone is willing to read, we can start with the very first one in Ruth chapter 1, verses 6 through 14.
I can read. Ready?
Yes, ready.
Okay. When Wow. When Naomi heard in Moab that the Lord had come to the aid of his people by providing food for them, she and her daughters in law prepared to return home from there. With her two daughters in law, she left the place where she had been living and set out on the road that would take them back to the land of Judah. Then Naomi said to her two daughters in law, "Go back, each of you, to your mother's home. May the Lord show you kindness as you have shown kindness to your dead husbands and to me. May the Lord grant that each of you will find rest in the home of another husband." Then she kissed them goodbye, and they wept aloud and said to her, "We will go back with you to your people." But Naomi said, "Return home, my daughters. Why would you come with me? Am I going to have any more sons? Who would be, who could become your husband? Return home, my daughters. I am too old to have another husband. Even if I thought there was still hope for me, even if I had a husband tonight and then gave birth to sons, would you wait until they grew up? Would you remain unmarried for them? No, my daughters. It is more bitter for me than for you, because the Lord's hand has turned against me. At this, they wept aloud again. Then Orpah kissed her mother in law goodbye, but Ruth clung to her.
Thank you so much, Felissa. Can I get another volunteer to read the second part of Ruth chapter 1, verses 19 to 22?
I will, since my name is Ruth.
Thank you.
Um, so the two women went on until they came to Bethlehem. When they arrived in Bethlehem, the whole town was stirred because of them, and the women exclaimed, "Can this be Naomi?" Oh, and the women exclaimed, "Can this be Naomi?" "Don't call me Naomi," she told them. "Call me Mara, because the Almighty has made my life very bitter. I went away full, but the Lord has brought me back empty. Why call me Naomi? The Lord has afflicted me. The Almighty has brought misfortune upon me." So Naomi returned from Moab, accompanied by Ruth the Moabite, her daughter in law, arriving in Bethlehem as the barley harvest was beginning.
Thank you so much. And then we have one more left. Would someone like to volunteer to read this one as well?
I could read it.
Thank you.
When a Samaritan woman came to draw water, Jesus said to her, "Will you give me a drink?" His disciples had gone into town to buy food. The Samaritan woman said to him, "You are a Jew, and I am a Samaritan woman. How can I ask for how can you ask me for a drink? For Jews do not associate with Samaritans." Jesus answered her, "If you knew the gift of God and who it is that asks you for a drink, you would have asked him, and he would have given you living water." "Sir," the woman said, "you have nothing to draw with, and the well is deep. Where can you get this living water? Are you greater than our father Jacob, who gave us the well and drank from it himself? Also did also as did also his sons and his livestock?" Jesus answered, "Everyone who drinks this water will be thirsty again. But whoever drinks the water I give them will never thirst. Indeed, the water I give them will become in them a spring of water welling up to eternal life." The woman said to him, "Sir, give me this water so that I won't get thirsty and have to keep coming here to draw water."
Awesome. Thank you so much. So these passages for me stood out in this week as women who would traditionally be unseen, and how even though in their condition they believe that about themselves, but God believes something different about them. So as I show you the next question, which is, when was the last time you felt seen? And as you think about those moments and experience you've had, allow me to share some thoughts that came after reading these passages as well. So for the woman at the well, she was a Samaritan woman, and that alone would make it very clear for Jesus not to speak to her because of the long-standing animosity between Samaritans and Jews. However, regardless of that difference, regardless of that obvious, or from the society standpoint, that obvious distance between these two very different people, Jesus decided to break that barrier. On top of that, as you read more in that passage, he recounts everything that that she has done in her life, everything that has happened, things that have brought her shame. And even through that, still chose to offer her one of the greatest gifts that she could ever ask for. In the story of Ruth, imagine, I could empathize with the feeling of being in so much sorrow and so much pain that not only are you pushing people away, not only are you feeling unworthy, not only are you feeling that as if God's hand is against you, but you also get to the point where you even want to change your name. You don't appreciate or resonate or relate to the meaning of your name because of the sorrow that you've experienced. And yet I felt that God's way of comforting her was bringing Ruth into her life. And Ruth refused to leave her alone. Ruth refused to allow her to journey back home by herself, and stood by her side even through the season of sorrow. And in both of these cases, I felt like those were examples of women in the Bible who were seen even in the situation that they were in. So my question for you, and anyone can share, when was the last time you felt seen? Yeah, it's a loaded question. And it doesn't have to be something extravagant or major. It could have been something as simple as someone complimenting you and saying something that really hit you. It could have been someone who recognized the work that you put into something. It could be someone who recognized you weren't doing okay and they chose to sit with you for a few minutes. It could be someone asking, "How are you?" and actually meaning it. So any of those things count. And I see a couple hands. Oh my gosh, I didn't see the order. Um, but was it Joab first?
Aunt Ruthie, Joab,
Okay, Aunt Ruthie then.
myself, yeah.
Well, I feel seen every time I'm on this platform. So, yeah.
Beautiful. What about being on this platform helps you feel the most seen?
When I started fellowshipping here, I remember feeling like I didn't belong anywhere, you know. And week to week, time to time, people just what's the word I'm looking? Affirm me, and make me feel like, okay, so um getting older, when you're hitting 60, say, you begin to question your relevance,
Mm,
you know? And so in this community, I feel relevant, even though I constantly complain that I need to pick on somebody my own size. I just love being here because I feel loved and affirmed. Yes.
yeah, I love that. I love that. Thank you for sharing. Joab?
Yeah, mine is definitely along the same wavelength as Ruthie. Um, and yeah, I definitely have to point out I love how you like shared like the different types of way you can be seen, because I feel like that's like my thing. Is like when I think of like, dang, am I really seen? I always think of it like, you know, this person uh will care to listen, or specific things, right? But like you pointed out, like, oh no, they acknowledged you, or they said you, or they um said you did this like very well, or things like that. And I never like recognize that as like being seen, but that is also being seen. So I love that you pointed that out. But yeah, with that, I think just recently, with I guess last week and the last 2 weeks, everyone was like commending me for the service and like how it went. And I mean that's just a glimpse, but like Aunt Ruthie said, BTM as a whole is the one place where I feel like my talents, my skill sets, which I feel like I've had but never really been comfortable sharing, has been like kind of embraced, has been kind of allowed me to expand on. So yeah, like BTM kind of helped me with that by just encouraging me, lifting me up. Yeah, like I could definitely say like this is a community that like you definitely feel like seen and heard. Um, and then from there, like you just grow. So it's a beautiful ecosystem. So
Wow.
thank y'all.
That's awesome. I love how you said the effect of being seen. And you said it allows you the room not only to express who you are, but also to grow. And that's what being seen allows a lot of us to be able to do, to feel that, okay, I am recognized, I matter here in this space. I can be myself and I can also grow. And that only happens when you feel safe. And one of the ways that we can feel safe is whether or not we feel seen. So that's wonderful. Love that. Jalissa?
Okay, so for me it was actually yesterday. I went into Lowe's to look for paint and I'm like rushing in. So I had taken off like my head tie that I have on now to kind of like hide the front of my hair. My didn't put no edge control, nothing. Like I just walked into Lowe's. The kids were in the car, so I was rushing. And a lady comes up to me and she's just like, and I kind of feel bad now because I lied. She was like, are you a homeowner? And because I was so like in doing what I was doing and I had to like hurry up, I was like, no, I rent. Because I didn't want to have like the next conversation. Oh man, looking back at it now, that was trash. I apologize. Um, and she was just like, you're just so beautiful. And I'm like, thank you. And she was like, no. And she's looking at me and she was like, man, like you're really beautiful. She was like, you're here. And then she compliments my edges. Like, who does that? I guess they're growing back. But like I wasn't, it's crazy because I realize now that I was seeing yesterday, but I wasn't appreciating it because I was so distracted. So yeah, that happened yesterday. And I'm grateful because when I went into the store, when I got there, I was like, ah, man, I forgot my head tie. I probably look crazy right now. And she was just like, no, you're actually gorgeous. And I was like, wow, I'm sorry I lied to you.
Yeah,
So yeah.
I love that. And you are gorgeous. I'm just gonna reiterate that. But yes, I love that. And just as Joab brought up also, it's the small things. You know, you don't have to necessarily go above and beyond and spend 3 hours talking to someone for them to feel seen. Sometimes just taking a moment to say, what is on your heart? Hey, you are beautiful. Or hey, I notice this, or I notice that. Those things can really go a long way and really leave lasting impacts. So I really love that. And thank you so much for sharing. Okay. I think I was paying attention this time. Sunflower, then Natalie, then Cherie, right?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. You have me cackling because you're just like sunflower. That had me dead. But okay, so Jalissa, when you when you shared your experience, it made me realize that I do what that woman does all the time. So I feel like I'm the distributor, right? And I guess I never realized how important that role is. Yes, I see people and I always see what other people don't see. So, me knowing that, I should definitely speak more because I do feel like I'm that person that God placed to open people's eyes and also to give them joy and to give them encouragement. And this is what I do. I'm the joy dealer. So, wow, thank you for you don't even know it, but you saw me just now. And I'm always being seen on BTM. And that scares me because I'm the one that sees people, you know? Like I be reading people down to filth sometimes, and sometimes they don't have edges, you know? But I that's important. It's important to see people because people navigate through this world and they think that nobody is looking at them. But no, I guess I got to speak up now. Shoot, like I see everything. I see everybody. I see everything. And people are so beautiful. And I love that she stopped and told you that you're beautiful because you're beautiful on the outside, but man, Jalissa, like in the inside, you are gorgeous. Like your outside doesn't even compare to your insides. So, like her saying this, I think she was talking about your spirit too, because when somebody meets you, they can tell. And I do feel like that's why low key you're guarded because you have such a huge heart. And I'm crying. I'm crying. Stop it. Cut it out. You are I love you. I see you. I see you. I see you. I love you. You're gorgeous inside, outside. Like, listen, I love it. I love that I can love on y'all. And I guess I didn't realize how important that was too, these roles that God gave me. I thought they were just that. But I'm over here like, wow, okay, you're right. So they do make an impact. And I'm realizing, like in the Bible, God tells us that He sees everything that we do, He records everything that we do, good or bad. So everything that we do matters. And Jalissa, everything that you do matters. Okay. Like I told you before, you are a purist. You're just that girl. Please, I need you to bask in it. I need you to live in it because this is your reality. You're that girl. Whether you want to believe it or not, that's who you are.
I love that. Oh my goodness. I want to ask both Sunflower and Jalissa. For Sunflower, how does it feel to give that affirmation, to give those observations to Jalissa? And Jalissa, how does it feel to receive that in a space like this?
It makes me want to cry because speaking life and encouragement into people is something that, oh my gosh, if I could spend my life doing that, that's literally what I would do. And it feels so good because it's the truth. Nothing that I'm saying is false. And it feels good to just like spill the truth and you know, just be there. Like you are, you're so amazing. Like don't play with me.
I love it. I love it. And for Jalissa, how did it feel to receive that from Sunflower?
So if I'm being honest, it's it's nice and I receive it, right? But I'm also the type of person that kind of shies away from it, especially like in a group of other people where I don't necessarily like it with other people around. You know what I'm saying? So like if she had told me by myself, I probably could have like received it better and with more grace, but I just feel like I don't want to be the center of attention. Like there's other people here. You know what I mean? Like don't only see me. And that's a me thing. It has nothing to do with Sunfire. That's a me thing. Just being able to like accept this in like groups. You know what I mean? I guess that's why I also don't like taking pictures. I just don't like the attention on me. I
I
don't.
guess.
But I thank you so much. God is doing a thing, so I thank you.
That's awesome. I love that. And thank you for also sharing because giving is a beautiful gift. And I think the Bible is full of examples of how words are so powerful, but also the receiving too. It's a process also on the receiving end for various reasons, whether it's context, whether it's what we've experienced in the past. But nonetheless, even through those challenges, it's really important to not only be open to giving, if that's the place that you feel impressed to go into, but also to challenge that experience of receiving as well, because you also deserve to be poured into. And that goes for everyone here, not only to give, but also to be poured into. Okay. I have Natalie and then Cherie.
Hi everyone.
For me, it was actually a couple days ago. I was talking to my older sister about like I guess like feelings of like rejection and like inadequacy and stuff. And I think it's been something I've kind of been like pushing down for the past couple of months. Like I haven't been really discussing it in therapy. I've kind of been like talking about other stuff. And then I guess when I talked to her about it, I kind of broke down. Um, but I felt seen because she just like listened to me and like let me speak. And also talked about like how she felt that way when she was my age because we're like 10 years apart. So it was something that was like relatable for her. And yeah, it just made me emotional too because like me and my sister are super close, even though we are 10 years apart. And she almost feels like another mom for me. And like my relationship with her is like super important to me. So I am feeling emotional now, like talking about it. But yeah.
Wow, that is so beautiful, Natalie. I love that. Um, Not everyone has great relationships with sisters for various reasons, but the fact that you have such a beautiful one with yours is such a precious gift. And sometimes the ability to be vulnerable with people within our own family, especially a sister who can relate to you, who gets you, who's probably the closest person in your life that can relate to the experiences that you face, that is truly a gift. And it's an experience that I'm so glad you're able to have and enjoy and cherish. So thank you so much, Natalie, for sharing. And then I have Cherie.
I didn't expect y'all to make me so emotional, but yeah, what Sunflower was saying and just this whole conversation is so beautiful. But I would say, of course, my BTM fam helping me feel seen, particularly when I've shared different challenges that I've been going through. And then I'll get like a message from a member, just like remembering what I shared and saying that they're praying for me. And it's really unexpected. It's like, oh, you remembered. And even just like prayer requests that I sent in like way back when, like even like I'm gonna drop names. So Jalissa and Joab in particular, I'm referring to, just like saying that they're praying for me, and even just like about my brother and different situations. It's just like, oh wow, you remembered. So that's when I felt particularly seen. So yeah, thank you.
Love that. Love that. And thank you for highlighting being intentional is also a huge key in helping people feel seen. Even something as simple as when you share something that's been going on in your life, and someone not only just remembers in that moment or the next day, but then they can check in on you and just say, hey, like I just want to follow up and see how is the progress with this situation? How are things moving forward? And hopefully it also encourages everyone here too to know that it really doesn't take a lot to help someone feel seen. Sometimes it is just being intentional and remembering and following up with someone that you love and care about and say, hey, I'm thinking about you. And I haven't forgotten the things that are weighing on your heart. So yeah. Did I miss anything, Joab, in the chat?
There were a few responses to the question. I have to scroll all the way back up because I think Colleen had said, yeah, she said she was awarded Teacher of the Month for perseverance, and that made her felt seen.
Nice. Congratulations. Okay. Was there another one?
No, I think that was it in the chat.
Can I ask her a question?
Go for it.
Colleen, was that something that you were working towards? Or is it like you figure you're just doing your job and then getting that recognition was kind of just like icing on the cake for you?
So I've just been like going with the flow, like trying to get better. I wasn't expecting to be awarded. Every month they award a teacher from middle school and from high school based on the pillar of the month. Um, and yeah, like to me it was random, especially because like I feel like sometimes I don't know what I'm doing. So to be awarded like I really felt seen, like putting in the effort, like just trying to do better every single day. So it
Wow.
was icing on the cake.
Awesome. I love that. I really, really love that. And I'm so happy for you. Hopefully you got some time to celebrate a little bit, but I'm really, really happy you got to experience that. And I don't know if you can also relate to this, but I feel sometimes that when you get an award for something that you may not have been striving towards, sometimes it can carry more meaning because it's reflective of how people are just really observing the effort that you're putting in on a regular basis towards a specific goal. So I don't know if that also resonates with you, but that's one of the things that came up when you shared that. And I really appreciate you sharing that experience. Did someone else?
Yeah, even
Oh,
I
go
think
ahead.
it was like last week,
Mhm.
I had my mid-year evaluation, and the principal, she told me I rated myself too harshly in areas where I said I was developing because this is my first full year teaching. She said I was efficient in those areas. So like even the principal who's only observed me in my class a couple of times, or having other people observe me and then they go back to her and tell her how I'm doing. Um, it shows me that like the work I am putting in is paying off.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Oh, I'm so happy for you. um, I think I had two hands that actually went up. Nehemi
Arshely,
and Ruth.
I'm
Yes.
asking if you would just let me go first before
Okay.
Nehemia, because I just wanted to say to is it Kaylin?
Colleen.
Colleen, the first year of teaching is your most challenging and it's so hard. So I want to commend you over and over and over again because to be getting this type of reward in your first year, let me tell you, that is quite an achievement. I just needed to say that to you. It's a hard year. So bless you, my dear.
Thank you.
And Colleen, I just want to make sure I did say your name correctly. Did I? If not, please correct me.
So it's Kaleen or Kaylin.
Colleen. Kaylin.
Um, yeah, either way to me is okay.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you. All right. And then we have Nehemi.
Hello, everyone. Um, I think well, I guess still this week, but this past week, I feel like the Lord was really key on showing me that, like, people are seeing me and my hard work. Some of you may know, I'm in chaplaincy residency, and I'm a little bit like halfway. I finish in August, and employment is coming up. And because I work for Advent Health System, and because I am Adventist, I wouldn't be working for like the hospital, but more so the conference of the church. And so I am taking one last class in my master's class. They allowed me to graduate with just a class left. And I got an email last week from a chaplain manager. They're needing a female SDA chaplain in an area here in Orlando. And I saw it. I'm like, I was going back and forth. I'm like, well, I kind of want to apply for the position, but I'm not done until August. Will they wait for me? And I went to church last Saturday, and another chaplain friend was like, when Nahimi just like send an email and tell them you're interested, you never know. I was like, okay. Thought about it on Monday. I was at work praying. I'm like, Lord, what do I do? Should I email the manager? And then come to find out, I get an email from the manager saying, hey, Nahimi, I get your email from your professor, and I just wanted to know if you were interested. And as I read through the email thread, it was just beautiful to see like my professor was just like praising me as in, I'm a really great student, and she's an amazing chaplain, and I know that you would love her. And it was just beautiful to see that. And this was beautiful because I had in my mind, I'm like, okay, what do I do? But like, long and behold, this conversation was going on. And it was just beautiful to see that my professor was seeing that in me. Something I'm working through this year is that I am hard on myself. And so it was just beautiful to see that not only my professor and my preceptor at the hospital and even my patients at times are like, thank you so much for praying for me. That was beautiful. And so it was just like really nice to hear, like, oh, okay, they see the hard work, even when at times I'm like, oh, this was horrible, but it's just me being hard on myself. So that was just really nice. And it was beautiful too, because, as you guys know, Wednesday was Valentine's Day. And I took myself out on a date. I went to get my hair done and all that stuff. And I'm like, Lord, is love day. Just fill me up with your love. And I got an email from the manager. It's like, can we have a meeting? I was like, can you send me your resume? I was like, oh my goodness, Lord, you're working. And so it was just nice to just to be seen and God just like working things out. So
I love that for you. That's amazing. That's amazing. And I just want to affirm you that your hard work from the very beginning up until this very moment, all of it matters, all of it counts. And I'm just so grateful you are having these moments now that are reflective of the effort and the work you have put in so far to get to this point in your life. So I really, really am excited for you. And I praise God for you that He is revealing His love for you. He is revealing the next steps for you. He's showing you that the effort that you've put in, your faithfulness, your constant hard work is definitely worth it and has always been seen. So super proud of you. And congratulations. And yeah, is there anyone else who wanted to share before we move on?
I'd love to. I didn't get a chance to find that raise your hand button.
Okay.
Hey BTM family. I ain't gonna say nothing crazy today, y'all, because I got my kids here. Y'all already know how I get down. But anyway, the question is, when was the last time you felt seen? I feel like more people should, when you talk about, like, so to give you context, I just had a baby nearly 6 months ago. My son is almost 2, so basically back to back. And so this time around, shout out to God and my antidepressant for keeping me going. Talk to you like I just got an award for something. And it's been tough. Last week I cried to my therapist because it just felt like I was doing the bare minimum and it just wasn't enough. Like, the kids keep getting sick at the daycare. My husband's stressed out, work, people tripping. Um, and this morning, my husband looked at me and he was just like, I was making breakfast. We running around trying to clean the kids' nose out. Noses, they fighting us like they, fighting for their life. And he looked at me and he was just like, you know what, wife? You're such a good mom. And I was just like, you know what? Let me not cry into these pancakes. But because we have talked about, as far as our marriage is concerned and love languages. So I've been working hard on my physical touch because that's his. And for him to be trying so hard with his words of affirmation when that's mine, it was just like, oh my God, thank you so much. It feels like we're falling apart in my living room because we home from church today. The living room looks like a hurricane and a tornado came through it at the same time. There's trash in the hallway in bags. It's not a pigsty. It's crazy in here. Thank God for a dishwasher. The only space that's clear on the couch is where I'm sitting at with the baby. But him looking at me this morning, and he's just like, "You're such a good mom," and I was like, "Thank you so much." So for me, that made my heart feel glad. It's still a work in progress to get these kids better, and work folk gonna keep tripping, and they gonna keep sneezing, and life is gonna keep lifing. But when somebody as intimate as your spouse looks at you and like, he didn't know that I needed to hear that in the moment. I don't think I knew I needed to hear it because I'm just always on go. Like, you get fed, you need a bottle, this, that, and third, whatever, your husband. So for him to take out that moment and just be like, You're doing a great job. And he could have gave me a sticker. I'd have been like, oh my gosh, scratch and sniff. But yeah, it made my heart glad. Butterflies in my stomach. Or was that bubbles? I don't know. Anyway, it was good. It was good to me. I appreciate y'all for having this conversation. Yeah, I told him we're not going to church today. Number one, the kids sick, and number two, BTM talking about women's health, women's mental health. So I'm going to be there. But yes.
Awesome. I love that. And we were definitely going to talk a little bit about postpartum as well, because that's such a critical time for a lot of women, especially when the other kids are already in the house. But I just love that. And the fact that you have a spouse that was willing to take a moment and say, you know what, you're doing a great job as a mom. You are a great mom, goes a long way, because that reinforces the fact that he is seeing you and he watches you and he is aware of the effort that you're making, not only to be the best wife you can be, but also be the best mom that you can be. So even when life is lifing. So I'm really, really happy that you got to experience that. And thank you so much for sharing and for being here. I love it. Cute. All right. I thought I saw another hand, but am I wrong, Joab?
Nope, that was it.
Okay, that
Chat
was it.
also. Mhm.
All right. So we'll go ahead and
No,
move.
it was Clifton. I saw Clifton's hand. Did you?
Oh,
Did you?
okay.
I did, but I was like, yes, Joab got me.
Oh,
I
Oh,
wasn't gonna
okay.
say nothing, but the question, I was like, let me just let y'all move on. Um, but you know, when was the last time? The question was, when was the last time I felt seen? I feel
Yes.
like there are many times where I've experienced feeling seen, but like when they ask like when's the last time you felt seen, I feel like for me it's like when I'm showing up as myself in a space that I typically wouldn't show up as myself. Um, and at work, we one day we had like this show and tell, and it was a prize, right? It was a prize. Whoever has the nicest show and tell wins like I don't know a $50 or $75 Amazon gift card. And I was just like, what am I gonna do? So I went and I got this. I used to do plays when I was in high school, and I got this sword that we made. It's a pretty cool sword. Um, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna show them the sword. But then I was like, nah, I'm not gonna be boring. Let me make it exciting. So I put the sword um, in the back of my shirt, and it was like hiding behind my head. And when it was my turn, matter of fact, what's crazy is like for some reason when I'm at work, I'm always like the first or the second person to be called. I hate it, but I'm always that person to be called. So they called on me, and then I said I also was like, so what I want to present today is um, back in my country when I was a boy, I used to fight to survive, and I put this accent on, and I pull out this random sword from behind my back, and I just started like just I don't know, I wanted to have fun with it. I'm like, yeah, uptight, let's have fun. And while I'm doing it, I'm like, all right, let me be serious now because the vice president is on here, my director's on here, my manager's on here, and people are like, nowadays it's like obviously we're virtual, but like it's like at work, you know, at schools, like when it comes to like weapons of some sort or whatever, people just freak out, and I was like, oh my god, am I gonna get in trouble or whatever? But like I did it, and my everybody was making jokes, and it was like it's funny, but I was just like I'm totally gonna get in trouble after this. So whatever, the whole thing ends, and then um, a week later they let people know who won, and I won first place. I got the first place, winning the $75 gift card, and I was just like, like that's a testimony to like show up as you are unapologetically. It don't matter if people like you, no matter if they don't like you. That's not like for them. Just like be yourself. I obviously be appropriate, but like don't change yourself for anyone.
I love that. Clifton, that is amazing. You said something when you said the whole story, you brought out something that is really important to highlight, and that is it is much more powerful for us to feel seen when we're being ourselves, when we're completely authentic, when we are just being real, when someone can still recognize the good in us, the uniqueness, the goofiness, the any of the qualities that we are displaying in that moment, and genuinely just appreciate that, that means more, as opposed to trying to be a version of yourself, maybe to fit the environment that you're in. And maybe the compliment from that space wouldn't be as meaningful, but the fact that you're able to experience that being yourself in such a professional setting is amazing. It's a true gift. And thank you so much for sharing that, Clifton. I think I saw another hand. Marion?
Hey, it's Aunt Marion,
Oh,
everybody.
yeah.
How you doing?
Good. Good to hear your voice.
Thank you. And I think that's worth coming on camera. Did I come on camera? Or no?
Yeah.
Okay, no, okay, because the question is up. But you know what? Recently, David and I went to California, and we went there for 2 weeks, and we had the most amazing time there. And not without glitches, not without ups and downs and hiccups, because our daughters, Wanda and Milan, moved to California, and they had been sharing a bedroom for like 6 months. And I mean, that was huge, because they haven't shared a bedroom since they were little girls here at the house. And now they're young women, and with their own habits and their likes and dislikes, and they hung in there for 6 months. And so when we a week into our visit, they said, "No, Dad, Mom, we found an apartment, and you guys want to come see it?" And so we went and looked at the apartment, and then we asked them, "So when are you guys going to move?" And they were like, "Yeah, we're going to move next week." And we were like, "Okay, so you got your list of friends? Everybody got their friend, you got your friends to help you?" And it's like, "Yeah, we put out a text message to our friends," because the thing about our daughters is that we have moved them all around New York. Every time they need to move, it's like, "Mom and Dad, can you help us move? Can you help us move?" So we're a little older now, and our thing is, your friends are young and they're strong, so make sure you got all your friends lined up. And they were like, "Yeah, we text our friends," and we were like, "But did you get a response?" "Yeah, we got 1 or 2 responses." Anyway, rain was coming a day earlier than they were supposed to move, and so the suggestion was, "You guys, you really should move on this day where it's not going to rain." But they didn't have any friends available, so they were like, "Dad and Mom, can you come help us move?" So anyway, we helped them move, and they just sent us this message just saying, "We just so appreciate you so much, and you guys are always there for us, and you know we are so grateful that you were here during this time, and we wish you could stay, and we wish you could be closer to us." And I tell you, that was that. Yeah, you know what else y'all need? That's that. Just felt so appreciated. I felt appreciated. I was seen.
Like, can I play the game?
Yes. Oh my gosh. I
Yeah.
love that, Marion. I feel when, especially when it comes unexpectedly, I just, especially when your children or people close to you say that, what, I appreciate you and
Yeah.
I appreciate your presence and I want you around. Like, how many times have we heard that, on a regular basis, on a day-to-day, especially from the people that are closest to us? I feel like sometimes when our family, they see us so much, they're so familiar with us
Mhm.
that they may take us for granted, and
Yeah.
it's not intentional, it just happens. It's something that you always see, always have. So you may just be dismissive of how much of a gift that is. But to take a moment and pause and express, no, I appreciate you and I value you so much so that I wish you were closer. That is
Yeah.
a gift. That's
Yes,
beautiful.
that made us feel really good.
Yes, I love it. I love it. Amazing. Well, thank you all for sharing. Um, I think that's it for the hands, hopefully. And Joab, please help me with the chat because I'm really not great at multitasking. So if I miss anything in the chat, please let me know. But we'll go ahead and move forward with some statistics. So the reason why mental health is important, especially in women, but also in men, is because it's on the rise. So at one point, maybe about 5, 6 years ago, it was probably 1 in 5 women, and now it's 1 in 4. And with COVID, in our very recent background, that potentially also aggravated the prevalence of mental health disorders in our community. Women are also more likely to have certain mental health disorders, including depression, anxiety, eating disorders, and they're also more likely to attempt suicide. One thing that is an unfortunate statistic is that while men do not attempt suicide as often, they are more likely to be successful. So that is something to be really, really aware of as well. I know we're focusing on women today, but a conversation about men's mental health is also important to have, especially when it comes to this. As far as bipolar disorder is unique in that it occurs pretty much equally in men and women. But for women, it may be diagnosed later. So around the time when they're having children or going to grad school and things like that in their 20s and 30s. Whereas for men, it's likely to be diagnosed earlier in their teens and 20s. Other things that make mental health so prevalent among women as well is that they're at higher risk of victimization and trauma. Even with the current advancements we have and increased access women have compared to how it was many, many years ago, women are still at higher risk of several victimization related events, such as rape and being attacked and harassed, abused, assaulted, and things like that. And another interesting statistic, and this is unique to African American cultures, is that there's a growing number of households that are being led by women. And what that means is that there's a growing burden and growing responsibility on women in these communities to take care of not only themselves and children, but also the surrounding family as well. So that's something that's very important to keep in mind. Contributing factors, trauma is definitely at the top of the list, as well as constant background things such as racism, sexism, ageism, that's kind of ongoing and also unfortunately ingrained in the current system that we have. There's also health literacy. Now, many of you probably already know a lot about health and how different things can impact your health, but there are a lot of people who don't have access to that knowledge and information. And because they don't have that understanding, they may not realize the gaps they have in their own mental health and well-being. There's also barriers to accessing care, whether that's healthcare, mental health care, or simply accessing someone who looks like them. Sometimes they're able to get a hold of a doctor or they're able to get a hold of a mental health specialist, but that specialist is not trauma informed or cannot provide trauma informed care, which is care that is sensitive to the things that you've been through and also guides the way that we ask questions or guides the way that we even perform things like an exam or intake. Or we don't have enough individuals who are culturally competent or culturally aware. Culture plays a huge role, especially in African American and Caribbean women in their lives, in their livelihoods, in their mental health and well-being. And not taking the time to consider that is a huge disservice to women as well and contributes to further perpetuating being mentally unwell in our community. There's also caregiver burden, which pairs really closely with poverty. And as I mentioned earlier, there are a growing number of households that are led by women. So because of this, there's an additional responsibility, and there's also more stretching when it comes to the financial space as well. So more women are now falling into that poverty level based on the number of dependents they're increasingly getting and increasingly managing and caring for. There's also lack of support, educational differences, religiosity versus spirituality. And for the sake of today, religiosity refers more to being more legalistic, so following rules. That actually causes more harm to mental health in the African American and Caribbean community. Whereas spirituality, which is where you focus on your individual relationship with God, is actually protective. So something to definitely keep in mind. And the last two, which you guys also mentioned earlier in our icebreaker question, one is fear from anything, whether someone mentioned fear of dying, fear of losing parents, worries about health, worries about many different things going on. All of those things contribute to our mental health and also the world conditions, especially for, there's a lot of women, a lot of us here who are very empathetic. And when we hear of traumas or things that happen around the world or even within our communities, it takes a toll on us. And for those of you who are also managing care for individuals, whether it's in a therapy setting, whether it's in a healthcare setting, that can also add burden as well and contribute to your mental health. And one last interesting contributing factor that I actually recently discovered is in women of higher education. So African American and Caribbean women in particular, as they move up in education, there has been a trend of increase compromises to mental well-being. And one of the theories behind this is because there could be like underlying like mental health issue, let's say depression or anxiety. But being in a stressful environment where there are a lot of people who don't look like you, where you may have to work twice as hard just to belong in that space, and there's a lot of work that you're doing for your career, it may bring out or make you more susceptible to falling into having more depression, having more anxiety, having more of these mental health conditions. So for the women in your lives that are achieving higher degrees, which is an amazing, incredible accomplishment, but it may also be important to take a moment to check in because they also can be at increased risk of having some form of mental health disorder. So another reason why your mental health is super, super important is because of how it affects your body. So as I mentioned earlier, when you're mentally well, you're able to handle stress and adjust and move accordingly. But when you have an imbalance and you're not mentally well, or you have any mental health condition that impairs your ability to function, it affects your body. And the way that it affects your body is that it causes increased inflammation from the chronic stress. This inflammation, what it does, it causes damage to a lot of your blood vessels. So your blood vessels in a normal situation, healthy individual, your blood vessels are nice and clear, and they're protected by this layer of protein that prevents blockages, that prevents clots, that prevents plaque buildup, and all of those things. But if your body is constantly under stress, it starts to damage that part of your blood vessels. And when that happens, then you get issues like blockages. Some people get chest pain, heart attacks. Some people get neurological symptoms because you have different parts of the brain that has different blockages. And you can also have GI upset. So a lot of people who have mental health conditions or some sort of mental health imbalance, they tend to complain a lot about my stomach doesn't feel right. Either they have nausea, they're constantly feeling sick, or they can't really eat, or they're having some diarrhea, constipation, whatever the case may be. And all of that is because the blood vessels in these areas are potentially compromised. Over time, the longer and longer someone is under stress, you can cause other things to happen too. You have your cortisol, which is your stress hormone. It's great when you're in emergency. So if you're in a fight or flight, you have to protect yourself, protect your kids. You get a boost of cortisol and you're good. You have the strength and energy you need to do to get out of that situation. But your body is not designed to maintain that level of cortisol for long periods of time. And when that happens, it starts to cause damage. And one of the biggest things we're starting to see in women, in particular, African and Caribbean women, is this increased insulin resistance. And this is what often leads to things like diabetes, or it's difficult to manage my weight, or it's difficult for me to manage my blood pressure and things like that. All of those things are related to that chronic inflammation, that chronic heightened level of stress in your body from all of these mental health challenges. And you'll see in this diagram, I emphasize trauma. All of these things can be related to trauma: racism, sexism, ageism, financial stress, depression, PTSD. But if any of these are linked to trauma for you, the effects on your body are compounded even more. So it's even more important for people in your life who've gone through any form of trauma to make sure that they are surrounded by a community, by individuals who will help support them in their journey to becoming mentally well, to avoid these long-term effects on your body over time. Okay, hopefully that made sense. All right, so I'm gonna move forward. So what are some key symptoms of you not doing well? Or you not being in a place, or maybe you just need some attention into your mental health, which is your emotional and your mental well-being. So as you guys read through some of these, I'm going to highlight the ones that most people are not really aware of. And that one is your thought pattern, as well as your binging. So I'm sure many of you have heard the common phrase of, oh, I'm just going to binge watch the show, or I'm just going to, I'm having a bad day. I'm going to go eat this meal and kind of do this thing. Now, not everyone who says that has something going on, but we are noticing lately that people who participate in binging behaviors, whether that's being on social media for hours at a time, or watching Netflix or Hulu for hours at a time, or staying on the phone for whatever reason, regardless of what you're doing, or even overcommitting. These are indications that there may be something going on either mentally or emotionally that needs to be addressed. And that most people, they want to avoid that distress by doing something that either distracts them or numbs them from that discomfort. Another thing too that some people may view as healthy is exercising, right? So it's normal to exercise, it's healthy to exercise, but a cue that someone may not be okay is if there's a drastic change in the way they exercise, whether they're starting to increase their exercise to 5 hours a day, or going from 30 minutes to 3 hours. So in some cases, it can be healthy and there are reasons for doing that. But for a lot of people, if we notice that shift, that could often be a cue that something may be wrong. So, but any of these symptoms, decreased energy, fatigue, being worried, having thoughts that are cycling constantly, that are making you feel anxious or upset or worried, all of these things could be cues that some attention needs to be given to how you are doing mentally and emotionally. A little bit about postpartum. So postpartum depression is something that is very, very important to discuss, especially in African American and Caribbean families. And this does not just apply to first-time mommies. This applies to any mom especially within that first year after delivering a baby, whether they have one or two, or this is their first one. It's very, very important to recognize what the signs of postpartum depression may look like. And a lot of it can involve some of the symptoms mentioned before, but these are some that are really, really unique to moms in the postpartum period. And it typically has to do with their feelings. So either they're crying a lot and they don't really understand why, they're pulling back, whether they're pulling back from their spouse, they're pulling back from their community, they're pulling back from friends, whether they feel disconnected, like they're kind of, when you observe them, they're kind of just doing things just to do it, but there doesn't seem to be any attachment or connection either to themselves, either to the baby, to the other children, to their spouse, to family. And some of them may have thoughts of feeling very guilty about what they're doing as a mom. Now, there's a difference between being a mom that, oh my gosh, I really want to do the best that I can and try to be the best mom I can be, versus someone who feels guilty. Like these are more accusatory statements about themselves. I'm a terrible mom. I'm doing everything wrong. I can't seem to do anything right. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't feel like I can do this. Those are different. And those are usually indicative of something that's going on within emotionally and mentally. And this is also super important to talk about because oftentimes people may think that, okay, there's a lot of emotions there's a lot of hormonal fluctuations going on, hormonal changes. I know she's not acting like herself, but I can expect that. While in some cases that can be the case for some women, it's very important in this critical time. It's better to be on the safer side than to just assume it's just a normal part of being a new mom, or to being a new mom again if you have other children, because support in this time is very needed. Attention in this time is very needed, and a lot of patience and grace is needed during this time. Okay. Some risk factors for postpartum depression, if you kind of want to know, okay, do I have a mom, or am I friends with a mom, or am I connected with a mom who could be at risk? Any stressful life events, pregnancy, birth, postpartum, in and of itself is a super stressful life experience. But having other stresses on top of that definitely increases the risk of a mom having postpartum depression or anxiety or psychosis, many different things. Any previous history, Well, in this case, we're focusing more on depression, but any previous history of any psychiatric disorder or mental health disorder in the past, whether personally or in the family, is a very, very important risk factor. Any challenges in the pregnancy, any challenges in the birth, any challenges postpartum, any infections, treatments, being hospitalized, a traumatic delivery. Birth sometimes does not happen according to plan, and there's a lot of things that may happen. And sometimes, unfortunately, it can be a very traumatic experience. So if that's something that your mom or someone that you're connected with, if that's something that that person has had, then it's very important to consider, okay, this person is at risk for having postpartum depression. Also, being a young mom. So teen moms are usually at highest risk, but even younger moms, typically less than 25, are at risk as well. And having a baby earlier than planned as well can be a risk factor as well. So with all of those information that I shared with you, it can be overwhelming to feel that, okay, there's a lot going on when it comes to mental health. And it definitely, not only does it affect ourselves, it affects our bodies, but it also affects the people that are around us. And it's also important to consider, okay, maybe there are things I need to pay more attention to, not only in the community around me and the women that I love and care for, but also in myself as a woman within the African American and or Caribbean community. So before we transition into what we can do to help solve some of these gaps and issues that we have, I wanted to ask you another question. What are some of the challenge or what were some of the challenges you have faced when caring for your mental well-being? And it doesn't have to be anything extreme. For some people, it could be as simple as, you know what, I really had a hard time asking for a day off when I needed a mental health day. Or it could have been, you know what, I'm a mom of 2 kids right now, and it's just really hard for me to take time away to be by myself. For other people, it could just be, you know what, I was not able to find a therapist, or I wasn't able to afford one. I wasn't able to see a doctor. I didn't even know I was supposed to. No one taught me these things. So anything that comes to mind, feel free to share. And I think I see Tammy's hand.
Okay, can y'all hear me? Okay. For me, one of the challenges that I faced when caring for my mental well-being was finding who my safe people were, and also finding who my unsafe people were. I think realizing that friends I've had for decades and centuries did not necessarily have my best interests at heart. And, you know, I was holding on to the years of friendship, and I realized that they were not good for me. And it was painful to cut them out and cut them off. But I realized that my sanity was more important. So yeah, that was pretty big and pretty hard to do. But at the end, I'm grateful for it, and I found, you know, healthier people in place of that. So I am grateful for that.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for sharing, Tammy. That is so, so essential. We kind of mentioned a little bit earlier about safety, but the fact that you realized that it was important for you to find safe people in your life for your mental health and well-being is actually an incredible self-discovery. And the fact that you were able to act on it and develop that community around you is even more incredible. And I really hope that a lot of you, when you as you hear Tammy's story, that it also emphasizes how important it is to surround yourself with safe people. It's hard to heal. It's hard to be okay when you are not around people that who will have your best interest at heart and who are willing to help hold you accountable in this journey of being a healthier version of yourself. So thank you so much for sharing, Tammy. And that's definitely a challenge that many of us have faced in terms of our mental health. Does anyone else like to share?
I do want to point out there was some comments in the chat
Or
from 3 people. So Anna said to the question, feeling worthy enough to address my stress, wanting to continue conversations outside of therapy, but fearful, quote unquote, friends wouldn't understand. Sunflower said the balance for schoolwork and family life. Now everything is falling apart. And then Natalie said, being in my early 20s has shown me that years of friendship isn't as important as it used to be for me.
Okay, you said that so fast, but no, it's okay. It's okay. I think I got most of it. But for Anna, the first thing that jumped out at me is when you said something about feeling worthy of, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but feeling worthy to share what you're going through, and also wonder if people outside of therapy are willing to listen to you. If I messed that up, please correct me. But I wanted to speak to that because as hard as it may be to feel that you are worthy, you are absolutely worthy. In fact, God made it very clear that man is not supposed to be alone. None of us are meant to be alone, and none of us can thrive on our own. So it's very important to have people around us that are willing to support us and be there through us throughout anything that we may be going and facing. You are deserving to have someone who listens to how you feel and what you think. You are deserving to have someone sit with you through whatever you're going through in life. And the unfortunate reality is it's not always easy to have that community. It's not always easy to have that space, but it is worth pursuing that, because you are worth that, and you are worth that, especially for the sake of your mental health. So I definitely wanted to affirm you on that. And if you want to share more, share your thoughts, please feel free to. And then Sunflower also made another comment, and correct me if I'm wrong, Joy, but she said something about like everything is falling apart or falling out. Okay.
Yes, it's okay. So I'm back in school. I'm doing the medical chemistry program at ASU, and oh my goodness. I feel like any school that I went to before was nothing compared to this school. And it's not that it's difficult, because for me, it's not difficult. It's like breathing. It's the balance of everything. And now I feel like I'm just a terrible wife. I feel like I'm a terrible mother. And I feel like I'm a terrible student, because all of these things are going on. And I'm just like, holy crap, I can't get a balance on anything. And I'm kind of in this stage where I'm stuck. I'm not
Yeah.
doing anything because I simply, I don't know what it is. I just can't move. I can't do anything because I feel like if I do something, something is going to be pulling me in this direction. And I feel like I'm needed more than I can give. And I feel like I'm letting people down. And it's definitely, like slight people pleaser coming out, but it's also like me establishing my boundaries,
Hmm.
and then me not feeling bad because I'm establishing boundaries, like the whole guilt trip, and
Yeah.
me wanting to do my homework, my daughter being like, "Oh, but I want to spend time with you." And I'm just like, "Oh, dude, I cannot focus." It's very hard for me to focus with other people around and doing my homework because the caregiver, the caretaker, the person who's super thoughtful in me wants to abandon everything that I'm doing and take care of anybody who's around me. So I literally have to lock myself in the room so that I can focus on myself and so that I can quote unquote be selfish. And it's crazy because I feel like my father really, really, really like put this unhealthy thing in my brain. If I'm not doing something at all periods of the time or at all for all day, all night, then I'm not doing good. I'm not being effective. And I'm realizing that he has really bad ADHD because, hello, I don't have to be doing something every minute. And I have it too. And now I feel guilty when I'm not doing stuff. And I feel guilty when I'm resting. And then I have to remind myself, you literally have to rest. You have to rest just as much as you do stuff because it doesn't make sense. You work for 20 hours and you only rest for 5. Like, like it's not going to add up. You're physically going to be burnt out. And I feel like that's where I am. And I don't know how to balance it because every time I sit down and think about it, I get overwhelmed and then I don't do anything.
Yeah. No, I appreciate you sharing that because that is really real. And you have a lot of things on your plate. You have school, you have a marriage, and you have a child. So there's a lot of things. And on top of that, you have yourself, all the things within yourself that you have to also manage and get through the day, as it comes, and all the different things that come along the way. And on top of that, you are a very kind and emotional and empathetic person as well. So all of these emotions that you have to navigate through and walk through and deal with, this wrestling with your desire to be a great mom, your desire to be a great wife, your desire to be present within your family. And then on top of that, being absolutely present in school is it's definitely a challenge. And the idea of bringing balance, I can hear it in your voice. It's something that is stressful. It's hard. It's hard to know what that looks like. And it's hard to manage all the different things both within and around you. But allow me to also, in listening to that, and also to add that the art of balancing our lives is exactly that. It's an art. It's not going to look the same in every season. It's not going to look the same day to day. Sometimes there are going to be days where I just need the rest. There are going to be days where, you know what, I'm just going to pour into my family more today. There are going to be times where I need to pour into school right now. And there is grace for you to continue to figure out what that journey looks like for you every single day. And also grace for you to figure out how to balance that with all the different responsibilities and roles and ways that you want to show up in life as well. And if it's any consolation or any encouragement to you, based on what I've been hearing and what I've been picking up from you in your story, in your life, in your journey, you are doing an incredible job. The fact that you still show up, the fact that you still come up, the fact that you're still doing your best to be present in each of these spaces, and even here in this space on BTM, you are doing it, you are figuring it out. And it doesn't have to look perfect. It won't look perfect. And it's not easy. But I really commend you for the fact that you are still trying, you are still showing up, and you're making an effort to figure out what that looks like for you in order for you to thrive, in order for you to be the best version of yourself. So that is incredible. So yeah, hopefully that was helpful.
Oh my God, hopefully that was helpful. Are you crazy? You know it was. Like, get out of here. Cut that out. Holy moly. Like, you're, you just casually just drop, yo, like, the audacity of your brain, the audacity of you. You just casually drop these bombs. You're like Mother Nature. You're going outside, sprinkling flowers everywhere. And then you're like, do you like these flowers? Like, girl, are you crazy? These flowers are beautiful. Like, get out of here. Stop it. Lord, that was everything that I needed to hear because I am so very hard on myself and I'm very strict, you know. I'm thinking that I have to be like everybody and I have to, you know, do things the way that everybody's doing them, but my brain is not the same. And when I put myself in this box, it's very hard for me. So thank you for reaffirming my thoughts that every day does not have to be the same, you know, like I can fluctuate and I can move and I have to move listening to myself. I don't have to move listening to anybody else. And that's what I've been doing. I've been listening to everybody else. And it's just like, bro, you're not everybody else. Like, get it through your brain. And God literally, he tries to tell me that all the time. And then, you know, I just be like, oh, yeah. But this person, he's like, no, sis, let's focus on you. Let's rein it in. But I'm like, no. He's just always quieting me down. Like, bro, chill. I get it. It's so hard. Thank you so much for pouring into me and seeing what I obviously cannot see. Like, remember last week that there's a plank in my eye. Like, I'm over here taking care of other people's wounds and just leaving myself. And I can't do that. So thank you, doctor. You're my doctor. I don't care what anybody says. Okay, bye.
Well, I'm super glad that it was helpful. And I think Joab mentioned one more person that also had a comment, and it was about the length of friendship, like something like that, like the length of the friendship. Oh, Natalie raised her hand. Go ahead, Natalie. Go ahead.
That was actually my comment
Ah,
about
perfect.
friendships.
Okay.
So, what I had said was that the length of friendships isn't as like important to me anymore because like I had a friendship since I was like 9, but I also felt like in that friendship um I guess I felt like she kind of always chose other people over me, and that made me feel like sad because it felt like, oh, the years of friendship isn't like important to you like it is to me. And then when I like met new people and made new friends now, who I feel like I have better quality friendships, like I realize like how that's not always the indicator of like, oh, like this is your best friend. And in therapy I talked about it too. And my therapist said like it's important that like you and your friends are going to change, especially as you grow up. It's someone I knew since I was 9, and that's fine. But it's also like you don't have to necessarily categorize everyone as your best friend. And for me, that person doesn't feel like a best friend anymore, more like an acquaintance, and that's fine. So that's how I kind of categorize them. And also, what I wanted to bring up about caring for my mental well being is like when it comes to like certain like traumas I've been through and stuff, I always try to give myself a time limit. It's like, oh, well, this happened last year, so I should be over it by now. And it's difficult for me to be like, I can heal on my own time. Like, there's no rush to get over something. But I feel like I always do that to myself because I guess I don't want to like deal with the pain of it anymore. So, yeah.
I love that. Thank you so much, Natalie, for sharing and being vulnerable about that experience. I think for friendships, you mentioned that this was a friendship you had when you were at age 9, and you beautifully explained your experience of realizing, you know what, I need to redefine what friendship means for me, especially in the current stage I am right now. And maybe that means moving people into different categories. And it can be difficult to make that transition, especially if something like time is valuable to you, like if you've known someone for many years, and that's a very valuable standard that you use for certain relationships in your life. It can be hard to say, well, even though we've had this many years of time together, in this season of my life, the best place for me to have you is as an acquaintance as opposed to my best friend. And that may not be easy to do, and that's okay. That may need to be done. But also you mentioned something very powerful about trauma and timeline. And it's always so interesting for all of us, and myself included, to always feel like healing has to happen on a timeline. And you also mentioned something very key, like I just don't want to deal with it anymore. Like I just want to get to a point where like I'm good. Like I've made it, I've survived, I have healed, and let's move forward. But trauma and caring for yourself after experiencing trauma is much more, it's very deep and more nuanced than that. Because as you grow, as you develop, as you change, as you learn more, you may interact with that experience differently, and it may bring out different things within you. And sometimes it's hard to be patient with ourselves to realize that this timeline is taking longer than I would like it. 6 months, we would have been good. A year, fine. But even now, I'm still dealing with it, and it can be frustrating. But one thing, one of my therapist friends actually told me is that you don't always have to deal with it as intensely in every season. So maybe the way that you deal with trauma in one season is just like, you know what, I'm just going to go to therapy and we're just going to talk it out a little bit, and that's that. Maybe it's, let me just leave that where it is right now and let me just move forward for a little bit before readdressing it. Whatever that process of you dealing and processing with the trauma and how it relates to your relationships, your mental health, and things like that is your journey and is the way to do it. And it's beautiful. And I really appreciate you sharing that, your vulnerability with us and your experience. And I really hope that you definitely continue on this journey of being mentally well. So thank you.
Thank you. I never thought of the timeline thing like that. So I'll definitely put that into consideration.
Of course, of course. All right. I have Aunt Ruthie. I think you were first, and then Joab.
Okay. Wow, this has been so great. I've missed much of it because my favorite auntie called me, but you know, the little that I've it has really been really great. I just wanted to say something that time really heals, you know, especially if you have the time or you make the time to experience this healing, because I've put myself under such stress. Like in the chat, I was telling you that when my challenge was, you know, should I really do this as an Adventist? Do we go to therapy? You know, do I really want to deal with the deep-seated feelings that I have to deal with? And going to therapy proved to be such a blessing in my particular case, because I didn't realize there was so much stuff under there, you know, and I'm still peeling back the layers, but there's something really great that is happening. Usually retirement is a very, very difficult time for people because they have to stop and it's just different, and retirement makes you deal with stuff, things that you didn't have time to think of before. You have to deal with them now, and a lot of people have difficulty. But for me, because I was able to do this work, you know, I'm still doing it. It has given me the time to talk to myself and say, okay, this is not the right way to do this. You can do it otherwise. You can take care of you. You can give yourself the time for this. You know, you can be calm now. There's nobody rushing you, you know, and that has been true all along, but I couldn't see it because I was so busy and so het up and so, you know. So I think taking the time, however difficult it is, taking a little time for yourself is so important, you know, because I'm seeing now where in my teaching career, I thought I was a horrible teacher. But when I look back now, I see that, wow, you actually were you really were good as a teacher. And I'm not saying that to boast or anything like that, but considering all that I put in and what I was able to accomplish with the children and stuff like that, given the trauma that existed in the classroom and in the system and everything, it wasn't that bad, you know. But it's only as I've been able to step back, being retired, sometimes not getting that much done every day because I'm trying to work things out in my brain, you know. But I just wanted to say that time heals, especially if you give yourself the time.
I love that. Thank you for sharing, Aunt Ruthie. And it's one of my points later on about the process of healing and that time, like being intentional about that time and that process, and allowing yourself to go through that experience of what healing looks like and being mentally well. So that was beautifully said. Thank you so much. And Joab?
Yeah, my comment to the question is piggybacking off what Aunt Ruthie was saying about like taking time to heal. I think that's been my challenge. Like I think my mental health journey, how I viewed it was like it's been challenging in steps. Like the first challenge was, you know, coming to the terms like, okay, I do need like a therapist. Next challenge would be like finding a therapist that like suits me. But like now where I am now, it's like once I'm in therapy doing the work, inside therapy, it's like, okay, now what you know inside therapy, take that into the outside world and do that outside of therapy. And I feel like that for me right now is the biggest challenge. Like an example of that for me is like kind of what Natalie was sharing about like the length of friendships. So like I had a friend who he always saw me as like a brother, a best friend. But being honest, I didn't necessarily like the way he would treat my our friendship. Um and that was something that like because like I said, I was doing the work inside therapy, like I was able to recognize and be aware of, and be aware that like this was something that did bother me, but like again, being uncomfortable, like not bringing that up or being uncomfortable sharing it, it was hard. And like having that conversation with him, like, hey, like, I know like you see me as this way, but based off of like X, Y, and Z, like I just don't feel that same way. And of course, he was shocked and he was like taken aback because, like I said, he saw me as like more than just a friend. He saw me as a best friend. But I think in doing that, what that allowed me to do and realize is like kind of like what Natalie and I think Tammy was saying in the chat, like just some friendships um are seasonal. Some friendships they're not, I guess the word is like they're not always solidified in that state, and that's okay. And I think acknowledging that, because like when you hold someone in that kind of fixed box, you kind of just constrain that relationship. And that's in its in of itself is not healthy. So um, but yeah, like I said, it took me a minute to get to that point of like recognizing like that's okay to like not see him as the best friend, even though he sees you as the best friend. That's okay. You both still have love for each other. You both are still there for each other, and that's okay. Like that's life. And I think, like I said, me saying that now like was not like how I thought about it yesterday. I felt like the worst person. Like, dang, like am I people pleasing or am I just being a mean person because I don't see him as a best friend, but he sees me as a best friend? Um, so I think just that part, coming to that realization and awareness, that has been the challenge. Because I'm always going back and forth in my head about like, am I doing the right thing or am I doing the wrong thing? So
I love that. I love that. And that process in and of itself is really important to highlight because you said something that was key. He saw you as a best friend, but you didn't. And to get to a place where you could be comfortable saying, well, I stand by that because in this season of my life, that's not where I have you. And when you talked about some friendships are seasonal, I thought that was very well said because what came to mind to me was like a train. Like you're riding on a train through your journey of life, and some people will have to get off. And it's okay. You know, not everyone is supposed to go the whole way with you. Not everyone's going to be there throughout the whole time. And sometimes letting go of expectations of certain relationships actually opens the doors for other things, not only our own healing, but maybe other friendships, other relationships that will help us move forward in our lives as well. So I thought that was very well said and beautifully said. And thank you so much for sharing. Appreciated that. Is there anything else? Any other comments or questions that I may have missed? No? Okay. I think I am running out of time. So what I'll do is I will, we kind of mentioned some barriers. So I'll quickly go through some of the challenges, and then tips for being mentally well. Hopefully that's okay. But Joel, if that's going to take too long, just let me know and I can just end. Okay. All right.
you're
Perfect.
fine. You're good.
Okay. So barriers to care, you guys highlighted some of the more important things. And there are other things I also wanted to share with you as well that are barriers for other people too. One of the things is the invisibility of mental health. Sometimes you may be going through something in an experience and you're standing next to someone who has no idea what you're going through. But if someone were to have, let's say, the flu or chickenpox, you could tell because they look sick, right? And you could tell, you know, you need to go rest, you need to go, you know, see a doctor, take some medication, take care of yourself. But with mental health, because it seems so invisible, there's a lot of stigma attached to it. And some people may feel like they have to over justify what they're experiencing or what they're doing or how they're feeling. And some people may not feel like it's something worth getting help for because I still look normal. I'm still able to somewhat function. I'm still able to get through the day. And there's no external or obvious external signs that something is not okay. So that can sometimes be a barrier to finding care, but also responsibilities. Life is real. Adulting is ghetto. So it's hard. It's plain and simple.
So ghetto.
It's really hard to make it in this life. And now you're telling me to stop and take an hour to take care of myself, stop to take 5 minutes, stop to take a day. I don't have that type of time. I have too many things to do. So that can happen too, and that can be a potential barrier. So thank you again for everyone for sharing. And these are just some other ones to kind of keep in mind. So as we move towards finding solutions to our mental health, these are some important things that I want to highlight. Mental health is important for us overall because it influences not only our bodies and how we're able to connect and relate to people, but also in how we function, our ability to make decisions, our ability to work, our ability to love on the people around us. And I feel like sometimes it's undermined and sometimes some people just dismiss it. You know, some people like, listen, I can just figure it out. It's normal. It's part of life. But taking time to take care of your mental health is essential. I also want to reiterate, especially for African American women and Caribbean women, Although our mental health has not been studied well. In fact, women were not included in studies in a very intentional way until about like 10, 15 years ago. There's not a lot of data about us, but that does not mean that what you go through is any less real, any less valuable, any less impactful to your life. And it does not mean that providers need to hold themselves accountable for understanding what your experience is like as much as possible. It is not on you to fix everything. Mental health, I feel like a lot of times too, and for a lot of people, they feel that everything is on them. I have to fix it. But in fact, there are a lot of things within the system that make it hard for you to be mentally well. Not only have you experienced trauma, have a lot of things to go through, you face a lot of things, that external pressures, you face internal pressures, you face expectations that you have to meet and all these kinds of things. It is on the system as well. The way life is, the way that we structured life, the way that racism and sexism is intertwined into our system. These are things that need to be fixed and also need to be addressed too, to promote mental health in a grander scheme for all women, especially those in the African American and Caribbean space. And for our communities, it's important for us to be more aware of and value how important mental health is, especially for the women in our lives. Women bring a lot of value to our communities. Whether you're a mom, whether you're an aunt, a sister, a cousin, niece, whoever, you bring a lot of value, and it's very important for our community to realize that and to also take in consideration your mental health. So how do we heal? For men in the community, so for men specifically, continue to create safe spaces for women. And this could be as simple as being respectful. There's some men who go above and beyond and like to open doors, that's fine, but try not to be disrespectful. I can't tell you how many times I've heard men degrade women and shut them down and disrespect them in many different ways. And it's harmful. Whether or not a woman actually hears what you say, it's perpetuating a culture that harms and disrespects women. It also devalues them, and it makes them easier to be victims, because the cycles, the thoughts that go into these, into the men that perpetuate harm to women is that they are less than, they are inferior, they're not valuable. So in addition to a bunch of other things, but continue to create safe spaces. If you see a woman in your space, ensure that, you know, the surroundings are okay. Ensure that the conversations in the room are respectful. Be mindful of what she says. You know, when women are in corporate spaces, sometimes it can be very challenging for them to be heard because of the kind of environment that they are in. So being intentional about the things that you say, the way that you advocate for women, the way that you speak about them, and the environment that you kind of create both in your personal and professional space is very important. Also, become more comfortable with deconstructing social norms. There's this expectation on women, and it's actually called the superwoman syndrome, which is the way that we describe it in the medical world, where women do it all, and that they can do it all, they can have it all, and they can figure it all out, and that's that. But while women are inherently gifted and are blessed with many different things, they also do need to be supported. And this concept of letting a woman do it all on her own, letting her figure it out, all those types of things is not always the healthiest thing to do. Sometimes it's okay to say, hey, may I offer you some help? Hey, I'm here if you need anything. Hey, do you need some support in this or in that? Whatever the case may be willing to deconstruct what people are saying is socially acceptable and to be considerate of what their needs may be. And also, be more open to being educated. The best teachers about women's mental health are the women in your lives. So take time to listen, take time to hear them out, take time to appreciate their experience and to carry that into other interactions you have with other women as well. For the community, let's normalize the experience of pain and suffering. And what I mean by that is, let's continue to allow women to have the space to be themselves, to heal, to grieve, to feel pain. Sometimes a lot of women feel that their pain is dismissed because of their emotions. Oh, you're just emotional, or it's just your hormones, or it's just your time of the month, or it's just whatever the case may be, whatever the excuse that they may use. to dismiss the realities of their experience, but actually take the time to realize, okay, they may be going through something, and this is the time for us to provide a safe space. Step in with practical things that you can do. I recently had a friend of mine who was going through something really challenging, and I learned something about the process of going through a crisis. So when you're going through a crisis, it's sometimes very difficult to know what you need. So what I've been getting in the habit of doing is when I reach out to someone who I know is in crisis, I offer, hey, I know you're going through a hard time. If there's anything you need, I'm here, including washing your dishes, helping you clean the kitchen, helping you fold your laundry, or picking up food. Now, they may not need any of those things, but giving them options takes off that extra burden of now figuring out, okay, what do I need in this crisis stage? And can also be an invitation for them to figure out, okay, maybe the cleaning I don't need right now, but if you could help me with the laundry that's been backed up for the last month, I would really appreciate that. So stepping in with practical tasks, no matter how small, can actually make a world of difference in the lives of the women that you're connected to. And last but not least, as you mentioned earlier, please do not underestimate the value of checking in with someone. Even if it's just giving a word of encouragement or a compliment, all of those things are very valuable and important. And then I'll end here since it's already after 2. So this is for the women specifically, and this is targeting African American and Caribbean, and whoever is here also in our BTM family. But these are some of the practical tips to help guide some of us along in our healing and to promote mental wellness. Prayer. So prayer doesn't have to be perfect. Prayer doesn't have to be eloquent. Prayer doesn't have to address all the right words and the right sequence and the right phrases. Simply saying, you know what, God, I'm overwhelmed. God, I am trying to create more balance. God, I'm afraid they're not going to understand where I'm coming from. God, I am just done. God, I have been through enough. I don't know how I'm going to keep going. While it may feel that those prayers are maybe falling on deaf ears or maybe just bouncing against the wall, I want to encourage you to really know that when you pray to God, He hears you. And it may not fix your situation right then and there or in the way that you desire it to be fixed, but know that you are heard and seen, just like Naomi was and just like the woman at the well. Remember God's love and favor and recall His promises. God makes it very clear that His word does not return void. So remembering His promises, reiterating those promises, even when you don't feel like it, can do a world of difference in your healing and also in terms of your mental and emotional well-being. Be open to learning about your mental health. So sometimes people notice that something is wrong based on certain behaviors they're doing, or maybe even how their body feels. So take the time, start small, and rediscover who you are. I can't tell you how many times I've had patients come in and they're just like, they know every single cue about their baby, every single one. But then when I ask them, do you notice that when you're anxious, you tap your foot a lot? They tell me, I have never realized that about myself. So sometimes in loving and caring for the people in our lives, we don't take the time to discover ourselves and to understand our cues when we are not okay, when we need a break, when we need someone to help us and step in to help take care of us. Practice the tools that you have, whether it's deep breathing, finger breathing, box breathing, whether it's going to the spa, therapy, use your tools. And please do not isolate. Women in particular are inherently social. Men are as well, but there is something unique about women in the fact that being in community has a huge protective and healing benefit for women. Even if it's just 2, 3 friends, even if it's just a couple of people that you know, being in community, even when you are in crisis, and especially when you are in crisis, is important for your mental well-being. Also remember, don't forget to ask for help. Prioritize your health. One of the things that I highly encourage women to do, sometimes life is crazy, but the one thing you can do is focus on what you can control. So be mindful of the foods that you're eating. Be mindful of how much fresh air you're getting. If you're noticing that, you know what, I'm not doing okay, something as simple as taking 5 minutes to step outside, to walk, or to be mindful of the food that you're eating can also make a world of difference when it comes to your health as well. So with that, I'm so sorry I went 10 minutes over, but I will stop here. I had a few more, but maybe another time. But if you guys want to share any thoughts or comments before I wrap up, please let me know.
I mean, it was amazing. That was great. Please feel free to share them in the afterglow if you have a chance. Would love to hear the rest of those tips and pointers. Thank you so much. This was awesome. You're a great listener.
Thank you. Thank you.
I have a question.
How much
Why
is
are
your
you
copay?
sorry? Why are you sorry? I need to know. There's no reason why you need to be sorry. Oh my girl, what girl, don't be sorry. You just like loved up on us and then now you're sorry. Take it back. Take it back. We love you. Oh, stop it.
Oh, mercy. Oh my
I
goodness.
just want to say thank you for letting God use you, because you spoke to me in such a way this Sabbath that it will trickle into the rest of my life. And I appreciate everything that you said, facts and feelings. And don't let this be the last time you do this, because this was epic.
Thank you guys. You're making me emotional. But I'm so glad it was helpful to you. Please, if you guys have any questions, concerns, just let me know. This is something I'm really passionate about because of my own personal experience, but also the women in my life. Also the women I've had the privilege of caring for. This is something that does need to be talked about, and we really need to create these spaces for women to heal and to be better. And if there's anything I could do to support you guys, just let me know. I'm here.
So we're gonna talk to Devonte about making her the head of the mental health department. Cause listen, I'll join in with you because you know me and Joab, we doing the self-care thing. Hello, let's do it, right? Mental health. See, I'm onto something.
All right. Thank you so much, Arshely, Dr. Arshely. This was definitely God's timing, divine, right? Because you've been rocking with us for a while now, and I think, God just kind of gave you the confidence to say, not confidence, but like to say, okay, I'm actually gonna do this, right? Because we were thinking of more of like on a smaller scale, and I was like, let's think big. Let's do a program, right? Let's not do a little text chat or whatever. People need to hear it, and especially, hopefully, I feel like men. I feel like it's nice to hear it outside of people who you are in contact with every day. So like your mom may tell you, your sister may tell you, your girlfriend, your wife or whatever, but actually hearing it from a professional and also a Black woman too, I feel like that adds oomph to the message. So I'm so grateful. You have a voice that is worth hearing. It needs to be heard. It needs to be on the sound waves, on all the waves, everything. Thank you so much. So we're going to close out in prayer just so we can close out the program, and then we'll go into Afterglow. There was the last question that you had, Arshely, that Joab and I felt like it needs to be like asked. So we'll do that in Afterglow. All right. Aunt Marion, are you still here? Can you close us out in prayer, please?
Oh, thank you. Well, Lord, we want to just say thank you so much for this amazing day, Lord, that you have awakened us to. And we thank you so much, Father, that we were able to come together as just one big family, and that you would bless us through Arshely today, Lord. Angelissa and Joab and everyone who was hosting today. I jumped on a little late, so I hope that was that covered it. But Father, we just want to just say thank you because you know what we need and everything in your time. And just like someone was saying, you know, this was the time for us to talk about women's mental health, and we have a long way to go. You know, there's so many things that I heard today that I never heard. And when Arshely mentioned that they didn't really start dealing with women of color and their mental health and these situations in the last 15 months, it just took me back to 27 years ago when I had our second child, and I was feeling like something was wrong, but I couldn't put my finger on it. I didn't know that I was going through postpartum. But Lord, just want to just say thank you for all of these nuggets and gems, that were given to us today, Lord. And I pray that we'll be able to take some of them and be able to apply them to our lives, Lord, so that our lives would be better and that we can grow and that we can heal. So thank you, Father, for everyone who's on the line today. Bless and keep us all on your beautiful Shabbat. We pray it all in your name, Christ Jesus, Yeshua. Amen.
Amen. All right, Joab, take it away.
Alrighty, so I know we're still recording, but I do want to let the recording run a little bit for the last question. Because yeah, just like Jalissa said, it's important to ask. So I do want to give Arshely that moment to share it. But before she does, and before we start our afterglow, as always, what's going on, everyone? I hope you guys are having a great day. I hope you guys really enjoyed the service. Arshely, phenomenal job. Oh my goodness, like you are like so gifted, and like you talk about it being your passion. We could definitely see that. Like very, very passionate about it. You definitely care. You absolutely listen. So please, 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 we absolutely just thank you so much for just sharing and educating us as well. So thank you for that. But yeah, we're going to start Afterglow. So with that, I see Aunt Ruthie, Jalissa. What's up, Jalissa? Aunt Marion. Thank you so much for the prayer as well. Sunflower was a good sister. Christy, I see Grace and Daniel, Tammy, Cherie, Kaylin. I see Natalie, Nahimi, Savi, Patrice, Colleen, CT. What's up, Lawrence? Darian, what's going on? I see Ket, Anna. Um, and yeah, I think there was two more people. Jerry, and Jeanette. What's going on, everyone? Hope you guys are doing well.
That's Janet. That's my mommy, Janet Hope.
Oh, hi, Mama.
Only my
Hope
dad
you're
can
doing
call her
well.
Jeanette, and you're not my daddy, so it's
I can
Janet.
start crying.
I'm
Hi,
done.
Mom.
Alrighty. So yeah, Arshely, if you want to share the last question, we can discuss that for a little bit, and then I'll
Yeah,
stop the recording and we could continue with Afterglow.
absolutely, not a problem. So after going through some of the tips to heal for men, the community, and for women ourselves as well. Now, one of the most important questions to ask is, what can we do to better support you? And I feel like this question was important to ask because we can go through theory all day. We can try to understand from the outside in, but we also want to hear from you. What can we do to better support you in terms of how we listen, in terms of how we show up for you, in terms of what we say, what we do, how we interact with you? What are the things that we can do to better support you? And even on a bigger scale too, maybe there are things that need to happen on a public health level to help, encourage an environment where you can develop better mental health. So this question is open to all of you. Feel free to share.
Honestly, I think quality time is the best way that anyone can show their support. For me, like words of affirmation are fantastic, but quality time is key, number one. And I think that contributes to anyone's love language. Like they know what theirs is. It might be acts of service, it might be words of affirmation, it might be gifts, might be touch, but yeah, definitely, I guess, like acting on someone's specific, learning what someone's love language is and acting on that. And so for me, I know that is quality time. So yeah.
Aunt Ruthie.
Oh, yes. I was thinking having more programs like this, having more discussions like this, the more we hear about it, the deeper the impression is, and I think the better we become.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. Sorry, Tim, I was going to respond to you, but I could not find my unmute button, so that's why I stopped sharing the screen. I am not tech savvy, but thank you so much for highlighting that quality time, and Aunt Ruthie also for sharing that too, because I feel like sometimes because life is so busy, the fact that someone can take the time to sit with you through whatever space that you're in, whatever journey that you're in, is super valuable, because we know how valuable time is, especially the older that we get and the busier that we get with the responsibilities we have. The fact that someone can take time out of their day to sit with you and spend that time with you is so key, especially just to kind of listen. One of the things that I've realized with some of the people that I've encountered and talked to is that sometimes all I got to do in the room is just sit down and listen. I don't have anything to say, I don't have anything to offer, but just listen. And to see how some people just feel a sense of relief and just they turn back and they're just like, I don't know what it is, but I just appreciate you just listening. And I haven't done a single thing, but it's just, there are so many of us out there who just need someone who will listen to us, who will be patient enough to allow us just to speak, just to be real about what life is right now for us. You don't have to fix it. You don't have to give me advice. You don't have to give me a solution. Just hear me out so that I can be heard. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing, Tammy and Ruthie.
Arshely, somebody had said in the chat earlier, I forgot who it was, but they were appreciating how you're able to listen and then you were able to summarize and kind of just pour back into them. And I feel like that's definitely a gift, because sometimes I turn my ears off, like in the middle of things. So I just be catching the last thing somebody says. Sometimes I don't do that to you guys, I promise. But I feel like that's definitely a gift. So that way you're seeing the person. So not only are you listening, you're seeing them, you're able to validate them, you're able to just pour into them. And I feel like that's beautiful. So I thank you so much for that.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I think for me, the reason why I'm really sensitive to hearing people out is because I've learned that there's more to be gained by hearing what people have to say. And I also know what it feels like to feel for a very long time that your voice didn't matter and that there was no space for you to speak and that nobody would actually listen to what you had to share. So it makes me much more sensitive to hear what you have to say. And I try my best. I know I miss some things here and there, but I'm really glad it's something that you guys appreciate, and I will continue to hopefully do better and listen to you guys more.
Wait, I'm sorry. Could you say that one more time? You said there's more to gain. What was the rest of that?
There's I don't remember exact words, but I said there's more to gain when I listen to people. Like I get to understand you more, I get to connect with you more, I get to know what it's like to be in your shoes, to see what your life experience has been like. And for me, that's valuable. I know there's a lot of people who have a lot of knowledge and are way smarter than I am and who have a lot to say. And that's great and good, but I also feel that there are too many of us who are hurting. There are too many of us who feel that our voice is not heard and that we are not understood, that more time needs to be taken to hear those voices too.
Thank you. I absolutely love that. I just had to have you reiterate that because that was important. So didn't want to gloss over that. That was important. Thank you.
I have a question for the men, fellas, gentlemen. Yeah, Joab, I already see you like, oh, what is she gonna say? What is she gonna ask? I feel like sometimes, okay, so we've always had this conversation of like men understanding women and women understanding men, and just those challenges. After today's program, my question is, how are you going to be able to use what you've learned here today and implement it in the women in your lives? So not even just in romantic relationships, but your mothers, your sisters, your cousins, grandmother. And is there anything else that you want to learn or that you want to know about women's mental wellness? Because now would be the time to ask the doc so she can give you those tools. Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, so okay, so this area is fairly new for me. As an uncle, right? As a new uncle, which is still crazy even after a year and some change now. But the part about like postpartum depression specifically, I think that's an area that it's like I understand on the biological scientific side, but in like the practicality of like or the application of it, like when it's like actually happening, um, like it was good to hear like some of the symptoms, some of the signs, because like for like example, my sister, um, who gave birth to my nephew like 2 Octobers ago, and I know like how hard that was on her, like and like how she was like dealing with like postpartum depression. But now it's like coming up for her again because she's also expecting again, but this time with twins. And like we're all excited, we're all ecstatic. But when you shared postpartum depression, like expecting multiple like twins, and I'm just like, oh wow, like that is true. So I guess it was helpful knowing the symptoms and like I know like that's definitely going to be a factor because it definitely was a factor for her first child. But now that she's expecting twins, it's like, you know, as a brother, what or just even as a man in general, because I feel like it's just that's just a situation for a man for a woman when they're pregnant. But like in general, like what are some of the best ways that we really can help? And I think from what I'm hearing, correct me if I'm wrong, was just I love how you were saying like, you know, there's like a list of tasks like you like that we can do like and just give those options and then allow her to choose. I think that's one thing that I heard that I really resonate with because that's something that um I may not know exactly what to do or how to do it, but I'm very resourceful of like, okay, I could find a way to do it. I could YouTube a video and learn how to do it. Or I could find someone who knows how to do it better than me. I think all those things that I am good at that. But at the same time, I'm also willing to learn at the same time. So yeah. AKA I've never changed a diaper in my life. So if I gotta change twin diapers back to back, I'm willing to do that. So but yeah, I guess just being open to knowing other ways in helping out for postpartum depression because like that's like a new area for me when it comes to women's mental health.
I really appreciate your courage in doing that because I feel a lot of men, especially, they feel very intimidated. They're like, don't know what it's like to be pregnant. I don't know what it's like to deliver a baby. I don't know what to do. And if you're not the spouse, it's even more confusing. So it's kind of like, okay, I don't want to be too intrusive. I don't know what's too much. What is the right thing to do? But you highlighted a great point. Start with the more practical things, especially a new mom of twins. So there's a twice the hormone, twice the challenge, twice the everything. So everything is multiplied. So it's very important for the mom to know that you're there. That's probably the most important thing. Like if I ever need anything, if I haven't slept in like a day or two and I'm just like done, it's nice to know that there's someone there who can watch the kids for me for an hour or two. Or there's someone who can at least, can you just wash the bottles real quick? Can you just here, I have some money, just grab the diapers real quick for me because I just can't get out the house right now with all the kids. Um, can you help me with grocery shopping, just for this week, or maybe just can you honestly just pick up, dinner, for the night, whatever the case may be. That's a good way to start. And then as the mom gets more comfortable, because we also have to allow the mom room to feel comfortable for asking for what she needs as well. Because it can be overwhelming when everyone is coming at you and saying, what do you need? What do you need? How can I help? And all this kind of stuff. So it's a balance. But starting out with the more practical things and getting that off her plate can give her the freedom and also the opportunity to be like, okay, what are my actual needs and how can I balance that with the help that I have available? So I love your approach. You're doing good.
Thank you, thank you. I forgot to add also like another thing that's also been like a hindrance on my part is like because I'm away at school, like she's down in Long Island, I'm upstate New York, so it's like a 4 hour difference. So that adds to it as well. But I think taking that into consideration, like the like I don't know, the thought popped in my head of just like sending groceries because I could definitely Instacart some diapers if I need to. Listen, I definitely could. So it's giving me ideas though. But for real, thank you.
Arshely, I realized something when you talk about you spoke about earlier, and you spoke of this about this in terms of men and how sometimes we're going through something, maybe it's the time of the month, or and but I think that I've done that to myself and to other people too, you know. And so I'm thinking that even though the emotions are intensified at that time, they still need to be recognized and I can't say dealt with, but at least sympathized with. Yeah, that's what I heard from you, because I've done it too in order to, well, that people pleasing part of me too, comes out. I just want to make everybody comfortable. So, oh, I'm just feeling this way because, I may not have said why, but the excuse, you know. So, it's something to think about because it's uncomfortable. And you just want other people to be comfortable, so you want to validate their feelings over yours, when really and truly we should be validating our own, because maybe it is that whatever emotions come out during these times, they're deep-seated, they were there anyway. Wow.
That's a very valid point, because the way that I try to make it relatable to men is, imagine you have a nail in your shoe that you cannot take out. And it's a nail in your shoe that's there for like 3 days, 5 days, 7 days, 14 days, however many days, pick however many days you want. And you have that nail in your shoe. Now, if you've already been having a bad day, that nail in your shoe is enough to push you over the edge. So you're going to be cranky. You're going to be upset. You're going to be, not going to be your best self. And when the nail goes away, okay, you can manage your emotions better, because now your attention is not divided between how much pain you're in or how uncomfortable you are right now, and also everything else going on. Now you can just focus on what's going on in life. So that's why when women go through, especially monthly cycles, it's important to be compassionate. Not because I feel people say that because, like, oh, you just want to be soft with them and all that kind of stuff. Like, it's not really about that. It's just, you're in a emotionally sensitive space right now, and you have a lot of hormonal fluctuations that can influence that, but you're also going through life, and going through an extra stress, physiologic stress in your body for that period of time can bring out certain things. So people exercising just more compassion, even yourself exercising some compassion, giving yourself a break, people being kinder to you, can make a world of difference. And it's also unfair for a lot of women just to be lumped with, oh, it's just your hormones, and kind of dismissed. Because it's not just hormones. Hormones in and of themselves don't just make someone act a certain way. They can influence what's already there, but they don't just make someone become this horrible person, or, turn into this person that you don't recognize. So it's important for you to be very gentle and considerate of what they may be going through. It doesn't justify, doing horrible things to people. It's just a reminder that, you don't know what someone's experiencing. You don't know how much pain they may be in, or how much discomfort they may be feeling. So exercising a little bit of kindness can really make a huge difference, especially when we extend it to ourselves as well.
I didn't realize that until you started to speak about that, Arshely, and it occurred to me that even in apologizing for whatever the way that I'm behaving, I am suppressing what I actually feel. That was another way of not dealing with the really important issues. It's very good, very good. You're awesome. I love you. I do. And I've done that to other people too, to other women. I'm like, oh, she's going through so and so, so whatever, Didn't realize it. I didn't realize it. I'm sorry, but it's so much to take in. There's so much to be aware, to be more aware, of people, their feelings, why we do what we do. It just doesn't happen like that.
Yeah. And I appreciate you saying, Ruthie, that it can be overwhelming because it is a lot. And there's also a fine line as well. So it's very important to understand that while emotions and our mental well-being are a very important part of life, we have to be very cautious of how we're also moving through life as well. So, for example, being very angry, there could be very, very justified reasons for you to be angry, for you to feel that there's an injustice towards you in any type of way. But at the end of the day, even though that feeling may be justified, you are still responsible for how you navigate through life, and you have to be held accountable for that. You may not need to apologize for how you felt. In fact, you rarely ever have to apologize for the emotions that you feel. But if those emotions led you to act in a way that harmed someone or harmed yourself, then you need to take that initiative and apologize for that, because that is not okay. Emotions are never a justification for you to act anyway and then just expect for everything to be okay. There's some accountability in that. But I also think at the same time too, extending compassion is what also helps people take a pause. Like, I don't know if you've ever experienced this, where you had a really bad day and someone comes up to you and says, you know what? I appreciate how respectful you were of that aggressive patient, for example. And that's enough for me to think to myself and de-escalate a little bit and be like, you know what? I know I'm having a bad day, but I choose to be intentional with how I want to move forward through the rest of my day. That really does change how I move. It really just changes my thought process. And it brings to mind the scripture. I'm not a theologian, so please forgive me. But the scripture that talks about how like a kind word turns away wrath. And it really does. It really does, when you can say something, even if it's something small, to someone who's having a rough day, and it really changes things. And who knows, you may have prevented or helped trigger that person to prevent them from doing something even worse, or potentially doing something harmful to themselves or to someone else. So yeah, so that accountability for ourselves to extend kindness and compassion to other people does not make us responsible for the outcome. But what it does is that it offers a person a space to feel that your emotions are what they are, they're accepted, they're seen, and you are heard and you're validated. And hopefully with that information, that person will then be able to move forward to either explore more about themselves and to be more intentional about how they move forward in life as well. Hopefully that makes sense.
All through this conversation, well, especially, this last part of the conversation, I was thinking that when things become uncomfortable, how can I say it now? Even physically, it has to be released. It has to be let go of. It's like God created us so that emotionally, physically, mentally, whenever something is too full, it's got to come out, And I just think that's amazing with the way that he's created us.
Okay.
You
Hi,
know what that
Chanel.
means, though? That means we all have a limit. Huh. So
Go
we'd like to think that we're limitless, that we're not in a box, but realistically, we have limits. And that's just the human thing. Wow. Oh my gosh, I love this conversation. Oh man.
And you know what's interesting as well, Sunflower, is that your threshold for managing stress decreases with the more dysregulated you are. So if you're already upset, bothered, like someone stepping on your toe may throw you over the edge. But if you're having like a great day, you're in a good mental space, you're emotionally regulated, someone steps on your toe, it may bother you. You'd be like, why'd you step on my toe? But like, you'd be able to manage yourself better. But that threshold really is a real thing for people. And I think we underestimate how low it goes when we're not in a good place. which reinforces how important it is to make sure that we regularly check in with ourselves and see where we are mentally before we interact, with people and take care of things day to day.
That accounts for a lot of the crimes that are committed.
And for road rage, although some people do drive crazy, but yeah, road rage is another very, very common one. Like people, they look back and they're just like, I would have never done that, but they were already annoyed that morning. They had a flat tire after that. They had a fight with their boss, and then someone cut them off, and that was it. That was the last straw that broke the camel's back. So it's very, I'm so sorry. It's very important to be mindful of where we are, because it can lead us to make decisions that may be very hard to come back from.
So we might need to take a break when situations escalate so we can get it together. We might just need to do that.
Take a break for safety's sake. Literally.
Yes, for everybody's safety, mine and
Wow. That's crazy. And you know what? Arshely, there's a Blacklist episode about that. This guy, he purposely, okay, so he wanted to trigger, I guess, a gene in people. So he literally triggered people to have bad days. And then I guess he became what did he do again? He became their savior, but also he was the one causing the problems so that he could blackmail them. And he was seeing how people tick, like when things repeatedly happen, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, up to 10 things happen, you're literally wired to snap harder because of those 10 things than if you were, just regular. So you're definitely right. Of course, you're a doctor, but like
I do want to leave the recording on if anyone else wants to answer the question again. Um, please feel free.
Can you
If
repeat
not,
the question again, please, Joel?
yeah. So the question was that Archie put, what are some ways we can support your mental health journey?
So to support mental health, my personal journey, I guess it's forms like this where I can feel safe to be vulnerable. Um, let's see, a lot of the things that was mentioned earlier, knowing what friends are really your friends and learning not to look at, oh, they've been my friend since I was this old, but were they really your friend? Like, was it a equal friendship? Like, were they doing as much for you as you were doing for them? Like those things being available, especially to Black women, Black males, just young people in general, is important because sadly, it's not something that's talked about in our homes enough. It's not something that's talked about at church enough. So, all of our normal spaces where we expect to be taught, even schools, it's not. So I would say things like this, forums like this, are definitely a great way to answer things because, like Dr. Arshely said, not to isolate is um, a big thing. And that's always my go-to is to isolate. And it has been confirmed, like that's not the way to deal with it. And I feel less adequate because I don't have kids and I don't have a husband, yet I struggle the same. So, things like this are appreciated and needed. That's all.
Thank you so, so much for sharing that, Colleen. And my heart definitely goes out to you because I can relate to that feeling very, very well. And to feel that you're in a space where you struggle with isolating yourself versus being around community is definitely a real struggle. It's hard. It's really, really hard. And I just want to offer and also to be here for you in this space. If there's anything you need, if there's just someone to just listen, and anyone just to kind of just sit with you, um, please reach out. Like, I'm here, we're here, BTM is here as well. But you are not by yourself in this. And we feel you. Like, we definitely feel what you're going through. We definitely empathize with you. You are not by yourself. And this is something that I do hear in women too. I don't have kids. I don't have a husband. I don't have all of these responsibilities. I'm not a caregiver for multiple people. Is my struggling just as justified as those who have those challenges? And yes, completely, completely. Your struggle is just as important, matters just as much, and is just as valuable. You are just as worthy to have someone that you can lean on. You're just as worthy to have someone reach out to you and say, hey, what can I do for you today? Do you need some groceries? Can I send you some groceries? Can I just pop up at your house real quick, or at your apartment, or in your room, and just sit with you? Do you need me to help you with laundry, clean your kitchen, whatever the case may be? Yes, you deserve for people to reach out to you in that way as well. You don't need to have a husband and kids to feel justified in your struggle. Your struggle is what it is. And the fact that you're bold enough and courageous and vulnerable enough to share the realities of what you're going through, and that it is hard. Like, it is hard to be a Black woman. It's hard to be a Caribbean woman. It's hard to be both Black and Caribbean, to navigate what that is like every single day, and to still wrestle with all the other stresses you have on top of that. So you are not by yourself, and you are in a space, in a room with people who are willing and able and already are loving on you. And please, 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 whenever the temptation comes for you to be by yourself, for you to isolate, for you to say, you know what, maybe my struggle is not worth it, it's not big enough, it's not as important, we are here. You are not by yourself. Okay.
Thank you.